Let's review Adho, Mukha, Shvanasana, downward facing dog, which is a partial inversion that's going to bring energy to the brain while strengthening our shoulders and stretching out the backs of the legs. So let's take a look at the pose. Beginning in tabletop position, we have our wrists beneath our shoulders, knees beneath the hips. And for down dog, we actually want to step our hands forward a little bit from tabletop position so that the fingertips are about beneath the crown of the head, shoulder distance apart. And you can see that Karen has a really nice straight spine. It's important for her to maintain those natural curves as she comes up into the pose. So I'm going to ask her to enter in a beginner fashion. So as she curls her toes under, she can exhale, pushing down through the hands and feet. I'm having her start by just keeping her knees bent so that she can really focus on capturing those natural curves of the spine first. This is much more important in Ananda Yoga to keep the spine open so there's an unimpeded flow of energy to the brain in this pose. And then gradually over time she can straighten those legs and start to release the heels toward the floor. And you can see that her body creates sort of an inverted V position at about a 90-degree angle. It's beautiful. So from here we also want to look that the spine is not going into a sway back position, which is actually harder to do. It takes more flexibility. So let's recapture those natural curves of the spine. You're not going to see that as often. What you'll see more likely is a rounded lower back, and that is often due to tight hips and hamstrings. If that happens, what you can do is bend your knees, tilt the pelvis forward so you're rotating the sit bones up and back. The navel is coming toward the thighs, and then you can work on gradually straightening those legs. We also want to see that the arms are in line with the torso. This means we don't want to collapse or dive the chest forward, which is a common thing to do in this pose. That can hyperflex our shoulders. So keeping the arms in line with the spine is great. Shoulders are away from the ears and the neck is nice and long, neutral. As she holds the pose, breathing naturally, she can use the affirmation to help her bring calmness into the pose. For beginners, this pose can actually feel quite energizing, but over time, as you become more experienced, it becomes very calming. So she can mentally affirm, calmness radiates from every fiber of my being. And to exit, she can inhale, lengthen her spine once more, and exhale as she bends her knees, lowering them to the floor, and pushing the buttocks back to the heels in an extended child's pose to rest her head down, which is important to do after you've been inverted, and integrate the effects of this pose. We'd like to show you also some variations that you can use for your wrists. If you have sensitive wrists, you might roll up the edge of your mat, creating a bit of a wedge here. That's going to help reduce the amount of extension we have in the wrists. So the heels of the palms are on the mat, the fingers are off of it, and basically we're reducing that sharp angle there at the wrist joint. Another option is to do the pose on fists. So you're on your fists, the palms are facing each other, and you can come up into the pose that way. It takes a little bit more wrist strength and balance, but it does take out that angle at the wrist joint. Lastly, you can also do the pose on forearms as you come up into it. Nice straight spine. Beautiful. So that is a review of Adho Mukha Shvanasana, downward facing dog pose.